Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 87 in Be With Me. We're in Genesis. We're going to start in Genesis chapter 17 today. Let's get right into it. This is Genesis 17, verse 1. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, so let me just make a timeout here. So Abram is 99 years old, and you got to remember back 24 years before this, when he was 75 years old, God first called him and promised to make him a great nation. About 10 years into that, they were waiting not very faithfully, and he had already lied about Sarai. He's put her in sexual peril. He allowed Sarai to mistreat Hagar, and then they decided to sort of usurp this patient plan of God by impregnating their servant Hagar. That was when he was about 86 years old. They kind of take things into their own hands. So Hagar escapes because she's been mistreated. She comes back and submits to Sarai. Why? Because the Lord told her to. And I think taught Abraham and Sarai how to do things right. So that was another 13, 14 years. So God has been silent for 13 years. And I imagine it was quite a long silence for Abram and Sarai. The last appearing wasn't even to Abram, it was to Sarai. I'm sorry, it was to Hagar. So now, today, the Lord shows up, and I'm sure that Abram responds, "Oh my goodness, I am so glad that you're still with me." And probably you had me at hello. You had me at Almighty. Okay, so let me start over. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, "I am El Shaddai. I am God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless, that I may make my covenant between me and you and may multiply you greatly." Verse 3. Then Abram fell on his face. So the Lord appears to Abram and reveals himself to him in a new way. Now, Abram's response is so sweet. He fell on his face. The presence of the Lord shows up, and God is doing something above Abram's pay grade. It's this relentless pursuit that God has. It's patient, though. And we see God leaning in here, just like he did at the Garden of Eden and at the Ark and in the battle of the 5 kings for the life of Lot. And God leans into Hagar. The short part of this is that we are seen and not forgotten. Abraham is seen and not forgotten. Just a pro tip for you, that when the Lord appears to you, decide to do this. If I appear to you, fall down on your face. So this covenant is going to happen. What covenant are we talking about? We're talking about the Abrahamic covenant, which was basically of 3 things. God's presence, that's the most important thing, but also of people. I'm going to build you into a nation, and I'm going to give you a land. But basically, I'm going to be with you. Now, to commemorate this, the big point here today is El Shaddai. God says to Abram, "I'm going to reveal myself with a new name of me that's never been heard before, and that is El Shaddai, God Almighty." It's used like almost 40 times in the Bible, but not before this. This was the first time. This is the first revelation of this. I'm God Almighty. It means all-powerful, mighty, strength, the strong one, sufficient. It might mean mountain, the rock. So for those of you who weren't born in the 80s, I would strongly recommend you to go to Amy Grant's song El Shaddai. It was on her Age to Age album in 1982. And it's a beautiful, simple song about this, and it's better than the podcast, trust me. So remember, nobody had ever heard this name of God before. And God's saying, "I want you to see me in a new way, in a different way, and acknowledge me kind of in this new revelation." So I was just as rocky and as powerful before, but I knew it, but you didn't know it, Mr. Abram. All right, so Abram does the right thing, and he falls down and just says, woe is me. The Lord calls him and says, "Walk before me." In other words, walk with an awareness of me in this relationship. Now, he says, "Walk blameless." Now, you have to kind of put blameless in quotes, because how do we walk blameless before God? How did Abram walked blameless before God. Was he blameless? Absolutely not. We can give you 5 examples of things he did wrong. But by faith, he is blameless. So the Lord is going to give him a new name here. He's going to call him Abram, which means exalted father, and then he's going to change it to Abraham, father of many nations. He's only got the father of one nation so far. That's the founder of the Arabs, and he gets that through Ishmael. And the Lord's going to remind him of this covenant again. So let's apply this lesson. So this happened 4,000 years ago, this covenant with Abraham. And why did he make this covenant? Think about this. It's to save the world. So he saves the world through the Hebrews 2,000 years ago. Then Jesus comes, and 2,000 years from then, 4,000 years from this event that we're talking about here today, we get a chance to respond in faith like Abraham did. And God is offering his faithfulness to knuckleheads. He offered it to the knucklehead of Abraham, and now he offers it to the knucklehead of us. So the Lord makes this promise. Let's be ready to see God. Let's walk before him with an awareness of him. And then kind of finally here today, let's respond with Amy Grant and say, you are, just repeat the name of God back. You are El Shaddai. You are mighty. You're this mountain. You are powerful, Lord. You are my rock and our strength. I would strongly recommend that you play your song and say, Lord, you're really big, you're powerful, you are the mountain, you are the God of my might. And here's practically, there's nothing, because you're so powerful, there's nothing that you can't do. And God is going to do the heavy lifting in areas that we just throw our hands up and say, we can't do anything about that, which is what? The burden of sin, the burden of justice, and the tragedy of death. Let's fall on our face in response to this. Lord, the mightier you are, the more on my face I'm going to be. I'm going to walk before you, but first I'm going to fall on my face. I'm so glad to see you. Go listen to El Shaddai. Thanks for listening.